All right, everyone, thanks for joining my channel. I decided to change the name of this to Homeschooling Sons rather than just Homeschooling and Education. So, my minimalist channel here is about homeschooling on a very low budget, very tight budget, and how you can basically do it for free. Also, where my kids were all sons, I'm going to talk about things about pertaining a little more to boys. So, um, I just watched Jordan Peterson have a reel on Instagram where he talks about how boys are not designed to sit in school all day. That was one of the reasons why I did homeschool also. I homeschooled because I wanted my kids around. I didn't want to push them off to school every day, 7 to 8 hours a day of school. Not at first, but I just, even kindergarten, even if I wanted them home for preschool and kindergarten, I still didn't want them going off to school all day. Someone had said to me, I think they'll be fine because you're very involved in their life. But I really felt like it wouldn't be enough. I really felt like, why would I go work for the schools with my time and energy? Why would I not put that into my own family? So, where I came from a broken family growing up, it was really important for me, an extended broken family. It was extremely important for me to build my family. And I knew in order to build my family, I would have to do double the work because of a broken extended family. I would not have, your regular family that just puts their kids in school and they have less time that they have to put into that school. I know some schools work for parents, but I'm like, no, you're going to have to double down. You're going to have to get the gaps in your own education. Although I graduated early from high school, you're going to have the building, the underlying building of your family. I wasn't a Christian. I wasn't raised in a Christian home. I probably was a Christian without knowing it because I did accept Christ in my heart as a little girl, but we went to church for a very short time, so I grew up without a Christian so-called environment. I did have a Catholic sort of environment I grew up in, but I knew without that now that I was a Christian after my firstborn son was born. I shortly after became a Christian, so I knew that these principles I would have to work at. So my walk with God, my marriage would be now doing a 180 because I didn't get married with Christian principles. Learning how to have kids. I had a forced abortion, so I didn't even know about the development of kids as a teenager. So having to get that down, having to build a family, having to work on finances because I was very materialistic, learning how to be frugal, and homeschool. How would I homeschool? What would I want them to learn? How would I want my values and my husband's at that time to how to incorporate that? So there were a lot of reasons for me to homeschool, but one of them, I did hear boys need to be outside. And then sure enough, not only were my kids outside a lot as I was growing up, but one of my kids was diagnosed with being extremely hyper and they wanted to put him on medication. And I'm somebody who does not believe in medication unless it's extremely necessary. Then yes, definitely. Why wouldn't you use medication and take advantage of science? But I was like, no, not unless it's needed. And the doctor was like, well, he's extremely hyper. And I said, so what? He can use his hyperness to his advantage. So when I homeschooled, he actually was extremely hyper. I mean, he and my brother was the same way as a kid. He loved climbing trees. He was always active. Later on in Boy Scouts, he would walk miles at a time. He would walk miles just to go camping. He biked, he swum. He was very physically fit and just extremely physical in everything. And then he ended up backpacking across the country, backpacking in Europe. So he is someone to this day who still has a lot of energy. I think there is a little bit of a danger with some of the impulsiveness that can be there. It can be a little, you just got to be careful of that. But I agree with Jordan Peterson. He would have never, ever been able to sit all day in a classroom. I had another son who was a little more quieter in nature, my firstborn, He is a more sit down type of kid. He was kid, but and guy, a little more studious, but he still needs to be, physical and out there and doing stuff. And I think most boys are like that. I had another son who was he had some low muscle tone issues as a little kid. So I went to the doctors and they're like, well, we need to do some kind of therapy. I mean, like he would run and just get tired out and fall. And I wondered if something serious was wrong with him. And then like when he biked, he just couldn't kind of get the bicycle. He had low, not only low muscle tone, but delayed development issues. So we worked with him. I worked with him. We brought him to the playground. We continued to give him that outside stuff to do, fishing and everything. And he actually outgrew that low muscle tone. And some kids do, maybe some don't, but he actually outgrew that and became pretty strong later on. So he didn't have those same issues. Um, Another son who didn't like to really bike, but he did like to walk. So we did the hiking. And I have another son who bikes every single day to work, and works all day and then bikes home. So he's my son that will ride about 80 miles a day on a bicycle if you let him. He's just very active. So, hold on. Bless me. Oh my goodness, I did not expect that. So he's very active. We did kayaking with him. He's very physical. He's not a big talker, but he is very physical. He loves to work. He loves to be on his feet all day long, and he can definitely handle that. So I think boys definitely agree with Peterson. They need to be active.